Now that that is done, then let's start today's seminar. Today is the 551st weekly seminar, Ocean Weekly Seminar, and the 162nd International Seminar. Our paper today is developing a harmonized decision framework for shoreline marine debris monitoring across Apec economies. This paper is actually published by our team, Jong Soo Lee, Jong Myung Lee, and Son Hong. And it will be presented by our YP, Subin Bang. Subin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alicia. Hello, everyone. I'm Subin Bang, and I recently joined the team into marine sustainability efforts. And as Alicia mentioned, I'll be presenting the paper from Jong Soo Lee, Jong Myung Lee, and Son Hong. So I've separated the paper into 4 major parts. First, I'll be going into a brief introduction and background. I'll go through the methodology, talk about the results and discussion, and then present you the conclusions and some recommendations from the authors. So a little bit of background, as I think everyone would know, since we have a lot of experts here. So since its initial documentation in the early 1970s, marine debris has grown into a significant global environmental issue, and its persistent presence severely impacts marine wildlife and ecosystems through entanglement, ingestion, and habitat destruction. And economically, marine debris disrupts vital industries such as fisheries, shipping, and also tourism, leading to substantial financial losses and safety concerns. And the fragmentation of such marine debris into microplastics further introduces us to additional risks to food safety and human health. So as you see here, these are the members of the Apec region, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, and this region is currently experiencing a rapid economic growth, but they also face considerable challenges from marine debris. And recent studies highlight the significant entry of land-based plastic waste into the ocean from this region, which impacts both regional and global marine environments. And the Apec region's intensive fishing activities contribute significantly to the problem, with abandoned, lost, discarded fishing gear, as we know as ALDFG, which exacerbates plastic levels. The importance of monitoring. So monitoring is irreplaceable for assessing pollution levels and identifying trends in marine debris. And currently, many monitoring efforts have been focusing on various environments, including the shorelines, the seawater surfaces, and the sea floor. And in the paper, it's mentioned that the shoreline monitoring in particular is invaluable for identifying debris originating from both local and offshore sources. However, current monitoring methods often lack standardization in terms of site selection, survey interval, debris size, categorization, etc. And the existing programs often employ distinct survey methods, and this variability in these elements, it limits the comparability of results across different programs and regions. And significant challenges remain in establishing a consistent, comparable, and scientifically robust monitoring programs across the Apec economies. So the study's objectives and significance. So recognizing this need, actually back in 2019, Apec senior officials introduced a roadmap to emphasize mitigating marine debris impacts for sustainable growth in the Asia Pacific. And this initiative aimed to assist Apec economies in designing monitoring programs customized to their national context. And to support this, a decision framework was developed to guide the selection of appropriate methodologies. And this paper systematically compiles and organizes key considerations from existing programs, providing a foundation for countries and organizations to design programs tailored to their unique needs and environmental conditions. And by offering this structured approach, this paper seeks to enhance consistency, comparability, and further foster evidence-based policymaking and regional cooperation. And this framework can also serve as a practical reference for other countries trying to implement such monitoring programs under constrained resources. Okay, I'll go into methodology. So the whole research process began with an extensive literature review to identify the key elements, criteria, and questions for designing monitoring programs. These were analyzed, and then decision frameworks were developed for each criterion. And hence, a workshop was held back in June 2022 to evaluate the draft framework. And during the workshop, the key elements and criteria were presented as guiding questions and decision trees. And participants of this workshop provided feedback, leading to a subsequent refinement and validation through case studies in Peru and Chile, which I will talk about in the later slides. And based on these findings, recommendations for the framework's application were developed. And as you can see on the right side, this was the whole workflow. This was also contained in the paper. In the beginning, through extensive literature review, initially 39 monitoring programs were considered, but 8 were excluded since they didn't really fit the criteria. And then from then onwards, they continued with the flow. And just for clarity, the paper was mentioned that the term program refers to initiatives conducting monitoring surveys, while methodology refers to the guidelines or procedures for the surveys, and both terms are collectively referred to as cases. And from the monitoring programs considered, as you can see on the slide, they were categorized into 4 groups: routine long-term monitoring, study, cleanup, and awareness or oriented survey, and mobile application-based survey. And this is just a snippet from the paper. There's a whole table where the authors have listed out all the monitoring programs existing currently, and they categorized under these into these 4 major groups. Now, building on these components, key questions were developed to systematically address the elements and the criteria. And these questions guided the analysis and organization of the programs into a comprehensive framework. And it provided a structured approach to help users select appropriate methodologies based on objectives, their environmental conditions, resources. And to improve usability, decision trees were created to visually represent the possible pathways. And excuse me. Now, the authors have mentioned the importance of cost. They have mentioned that objectives may need to be adjusted by identifying the most cost-effective alternatives that maintain the effectiveness of monitoring. And this can be mitigated by differently depending on whether national governments or state and local governments are involved, whether private organizations are involved. Cost is definitely not, cost was not included as a criterion, but it must be considered for long-term monitoring. So, for example, for example, like national governments can provide policy and funding, and state and local governments are often they're better positioned for execution. And private organizations can also contribute to resources and expertise. And moving on to the virtual workshop. So the draft framework was reviewed by a technical advisory committee of 15 experts with detailed feedback incorporated into revisions. And this workshop had the objectives to evaluate the framework structure, usability, and applicability across national contexts and gather expert feedback. And this workshop facilitated discussions on the framework's elements and criteria, and 27 participants from 10 different Apec economies, along with 5 technical advisors, were involved. And based on the feedback from the experts, the framework was further refined for clarity and broader applicability. Now, and then the case studies in Peru and Chile were conducted, and these case studies were aimed to support the development of marine debris monitoring programs and identify methodologies that are best suited to each country's specific needs. And then decision framework was then applied to recommend customized monitoring approaches to each economy. This section was quite broad, so I had to condense it as much as possible. So starting with the framework development, as I've mentioned before, there was a review of 31 marine debris monitoring programs, and this framework includes 5 key elements and 11 decision criteria for designing monitoring programs. So first, you would have to set a specific goal and objectives. You have to identify a target debris. You have to also then select a survey site. You have to collect data and then manage the data for a data analysis process. And then coming to goals and objectives, the authors do mention that clearly defining goals and objectives is critical in monitoring programs as they shape the questions the programs try to address. And the goals are the desired outcomes, while the objectives are the actionable and the measurable steps. The monitoring methodologies often address multiple objectives simultaneously, and they should overall support decision-making at multiple levels. So common goals and objectives found from the literature review were comprehensively identifying pollution status and changes, assessing the status of pollution, conducting spatial assessments, providing information for countermeasures, and raising public awareness and build capacity. This was another snippet from the paper. As you can see, depending on the goal and objectives, you will end up with different kind of programs. For example, if you will first ask a question: does this program aim to comprehensively identify the status, track changes over time and space? Whether it's a yes or no, you will end up with a different objective. If you say yes, you would end up with, for example, China MDMP program or DBDM from Japan. If that's a no, then you would end up with other monitoring programs, which are further divided into four different goals, and such monitoring programs mentioned in the boxes accordingly. Now, target debris monitoring programs typically focus on macro debris, which are debris that are larger than 25 millimeters for practical reasons, although microplastics are increasingly important. And the authors mentioned that categorizing debris is essential, and a lot of programs categorize debris by a specific item, such as bottles or nets, what the material it was made of, such as plastic or glass, or usage, packaging, or fishing gear. And this categorization actually helps in identifying debris types and sources. While data on small debris is definitely valuable, grouping results by size categories is often recommended to maintain clarity. And defining a target size early in the design process of a monitoring program, it simplifies the subsequent steps in developing such a program. And the consistency is also important because it's a crucial element for analyzing temporal trends throughout the program's duration, and changes to the debris mid-program can compromise the comparability of long-term data. And here also you can see another decision tree starting from the target debris, choosing a category, and you have to answer a question. Do you plan on surveying all kinds of marine debris? Whether it's a yes or no, you would also, in this case, end up with different monitoring programs mentioned in the graph. In the diagram, excuse me. And now moving on to scale. Now, spatial scales and marine debris monitoring can vary from global to local, and with larger scales requiring more resources but providing broader insights. Domestic monitoring programs cover national coastline and provide a comprehensive understanding of pollution levels, whereas the regional programs address the transboundary nature of marine debris and foster regional cooperation. On selecting representative survey sites is crucial, and the authors do mention these various methods. I will not go into details because it's too technical, and they do mention that the chosen scale and site selection methods influence the representativeness and applicability of the results. Now, the fifth component is data collection. So surveys can often involve surveyors with diverse backgrounds, making training essential for consistency. And the authors mentioned that the training can be provided in various formats. For example, online toolkits or any online content or on-site sessions such excuse me. And the survey frequency ranges from annual to daily, depending on the program's goals and available resources. The authors do mention that in some monitoring programs, such as the EU OSPARMML or EU Marlin, they conduct surveys on a quarterly basis, but other programs incorporate more frequent surveys. For example, the Korea NBLMP, it's conducted bi-monthly. And then in the data collection process, debris is often measured by number, weight, or volume, and each type would provide different information for the analysis. For data management, it's data quality management and verification are actually a very crucial component in any monitoring programs, because they will provide accurate and reliable data. And they ensure accuracy and reliability, and they often involve providing detailed manuals and surveyor training. Now, the surveyors need to definitely be familiar with the debris categories, and the data verification must be conducted to identify and correct errors with on-site photos aiding this process. And database systems should be established as well, which could range from simple to web-based, improving efficiency over paper methods, and the quality management overall. In any monitoring program, it builds confidence in outcomes, and high quality is crucial for assessing temporal variations and policy effectiveness. And when it comes to data analysis and utilization, the collected data should be managed by a designated entity, and the data should be recorded in spreadsheets or dedicated databases. And in this process, open systems and mobile applications can facilitate data entry and basic reporting. For analyzing such data, it also varies based on objectives, and they commonly focus on abundance and plastic proportions. And from the analysis, the results should be used to align with the program aims, inform policy, mention any back trends, track trends, and support awareness programs. And also, the authors emphasizes a lot where monitoring data must serve as a basis for regulatory decisions. And again, you would see a decision tree in the paper. Whether you answer yes or no on this question, you would also have different monitoring programs as a baseline. And finally, coming to the case studies, I did mention that 2 countries volunteered to have consulting from the experts based on the framework developed in this paper. And the case studies, they actually highlight some common challenges they faced in implementing monitoring programs, such as resource constraints, the need for quality assurance, and the importance of program flexibility. First, I will talk about the Peru case study. So they did have a marine debris monitoring program back in 2020, which they covered 11 coastal sites, but activities were interrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And at the moment, Peru is according to the paper, Peru is evaluating 2 international proposals for marine debris monitoring, which focuses on Eastern Pacific Ocean and microplastic analysis. And based on the consultations, Peru's priorities closely align with the New Zealand's LI program, the Litter Intelligence Program. And the key out factors in this alignment include target debris sized over 5 millimeters, material-based categorization, regional monitoring, seasonal surveys measuring number and weight, and incorporating a web-based database for data management and requiring administrator approval. And some of the advantages they found in this case was comprehensive methodologies using advanced quality management procedures and incorporation of user-friendly database system. But some of the challenges they faced were COVID-19 restrictions during the time on survey group sizes. They had a need for specialized training to ensure data quality and adapting to locally prevalent debris such as fibers. Coming to Chile, Chile has participated in the ICC International Coastal Cleanup since 2008 and developed a 5-day survey protocol based on the GSAMP guidelines in 2018. However, also in this case, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, these efforts were disrupted. And after some consultations, the experts found out that Chile's needs match closely with the NOAA-MD MAP, that is the Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Marine Debris Monitoring and Assessment Project. Key considerations in this case were targeting debris larger than 25 millimeters, which will be considered as macro debris, material-based classification on in all item survey, domestic monitoring with potential regional expansion, biannual surveys focusing solely on number data, and use of an open web-based database for data management. Chile also had some advantages where they had globally recognized methodology, they had flexibility, and also the availability of user-friendly open database. Some challenges they faced were limited time and resources, but in Chile's case, they had certain strategies to mitigate these challenges. So they had online training, they had integration with existing monitoring programs, and reduction of data management costs. So, however, we can see that in both case studies, they reveal common challenges in implementing a debris monitoring program, which were resource constraints, the need for quality assurance, and the importance of program flexibility. And these case studies demonstrated the decision framework's value in guiding Apec economies toward appropriate methodologies based on specific needs and capacity. So, and the contrasting recommendations show that the framework's adaptability to differing priorities and contexts. So in Peru's case, it was more of an emphasis on smaller debris sizes and comprehensive measurements, while in Chile's case, they preferred more simpler, resource-efficient approach. These 2 case studies also show the importance of considering local factors, such as the existing monitoring efforts, available resources, and specific environmental concerns when they design a monitoring program. And the case studies also highlight the potential for regional cooperation and knowledge sharing in addressing this global challenge. Coming to the conclusion. So in conclusion, this paper emphasizes the importance of developing customized, tailored marine debris monitoring programs that consider local factors. And these are some of the key findings that were mentioned in the paper: context-specific approaches, resource constraints, quality assurance, technological innovations in data management, and policy integration. So when it comes to context-specific approaches, the monitoring initiatives should be adaptable to diverse local environments, but they still should align with broader regional and global standards, including the debris categories relevant to specific areas. So that it helps pinpoint pollution sources and develop target prevention measures. When it comes to resource constraints, the economy should strive to make the most out of existing resources, potentially by integrating existing marine debris monitoring with other environmental programs, and which can overall help reduce expenses and increase overall impact. Data assurance, implementing standardized procedures and rigorous data verification is vital. And this is particularly important for programs that involve citizen scientists. When it comes to technological innovations in data management, the use of mobile applications or web-based platforms can significantly improve how data is collected, accessed, and used to inform policy. However, one concern the authors have mentioned is that when you incorporate such mobile application services, the quality of data can be compromised, and there should be a way to validate the data and maintain quality control. Policy integration, you have to establish a clear link between the data gathered through monitoring and the subsequent policy actions. Oh, yeah. And then further, these are on the right side, you will see the recommendations given by the authors. So there should be a focus on assessing marine debris pollution levels. You have to identify the spatial and temporal patterns. Yeah. The target debris size should be set to 25 millimeters or larger. Adopt stratified random sampling at the domestic scale for ease of implementation. You have to provide trainings and manuals. Report both the number and weight of debris items per 100 meters, as count data indicate abundance, while weight aids resource estimation for removal and management, and so on. While a single global approach still remains a challenge, each economy should implement context-specific monitoring while ensuring cross-regional comparability. This harmonized yet flexible approach can facilitate alignment with international protocols. Effective programs must be structured around clearly defined objectives, robust data collection, and rigorous quality control. And long-term monitoring is critical for evaluating policy effectiveness. And such data obtained from monitoring programs should inform regulatory decision-making. The decision framework presented here in the paper is a practical tool for those establishing or refining marine debris monitoring programs. And by adopting this framework, economies can ensure harmonized, comparable, and policy-relevant systems. And such efforts will enhance global understanding of marine debris pollution and support evidence-based mitigation strategies, particularly in development of an internationally legally binding instrument on plastic pollution. And I have some discussion questions here, and that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.